All right, good evening. The time is now 6:31. We'll call this meeting of February 13th to order. Item 1A calls for us to extend a welcome. I've just extended that welcome to you. Item 1B calls for invocation, which will be led by our very own Pastor Oscar D. Epps of Community Missionary Baptist Church, after which item 1C calls for our pledge students, which will come to us from McCowan. And item 1D calls for our district mission statement, which will be read into our hearing by Trustee Aubrey Christopher Hooper. Let's stand for a word of prayer.
God, we're so honored and blessed that you allow us to come before your throne of grace in spite of all of our faults and our failures. And as we come right now, God, we come saying thank you for being the awesome God you are. We lift up before you tonight this entire school district, that Soto School District, God. Father, we ask that you would continue to pour down your blessings upon this board, upon the administrative staff, upon each and every employee of this district. God, as they pour into our children, Father God, let them have the love that you have. Let them, Father God, not have tantrums on their own and go out on their own with their own motives. But God, I pray that they would be able to listen to directives from the leadership of this school body. And then, God, as a result, pour into our children that they can become who you have designed for them to become. I ask right now that even this meeting, God, would be done very decently and in order. And Father God, that through this meeting, that our children will be made the better. Forgive each and every one of our sins. And again, pour down your blessings upon this entire school district. We praise you for being the great God you are. We thank you for what you've already done. And God, we praise you on credit for what you're going to do. We thank you and love you, praise you, and bless you for being the awesome God you are. It's in the precious and in the powerful name of Jesus we pray. Thank you, God. Amen.
DeSoto ISD will prepare each student academically and socially to become a problem solver and productive citizen for a 21st century global society.
Thank you, Trustee Hooper, for reading into our hearing the mission statement. Thank you to our students from McCowan Middle School, as well as to Pastor Oscar D. Epps, Sr., for leading us in a word of prayer on tonight. Board, that brings us to item 1 1E, which is our emergency statement. I'll read that into your hearing at this time. DeSoto ISD takes the safety of our students, employees, and guests very seriously. In a case of an emergency situation, such as a fire, please exit the building using one of the marked exits unless directed otherwise. Should we experience inclement weather, such as a tornado, we'll ask all guests to move quickly into the interior away from all doors and windows. We'll monitor the situation at all times, as well as coordinate with local emergency responders regarding when the situation has passed. That brings us to item 1F, which is to establish a quorum. We do have a quorum with all 7 board members present, and so we're ready for action. That brings us to item 1G, which is our celebrations. Trustee Moncrief.
Swimmers advance to regionals. Congratulations to the DeSoto High School swim team for a successful district meet January 20th. Jordan Malone was named the 7-6A Swimmer of the Year, and Coach Christy Palmer was named the 7-6A Coach of the Year. The following swimmers advanced to the regional meet on February 3rd through 4th in Louisville. In the women's 50 free, Jordan Malone, 12, finished 3rd at regionals. Women's 100 free, Jordan Malone, 12. Men's 100 free, Richie Johnson, 10. Women's 200 free relay, Jordan Malone, 12. Gabrielle Bradford, 10. Allison Walker, 10. Carly Loftus, 10. Women's 400 free relay, Raven McKnight, Courtney Jackson, Madison Hall, Kalia Williams. Men's 200 meter medley relay, Richie Johnson, Desrion Houston, Javier Rios, and Ashton Barnes. Fine Arts excels in competition. The choral department students secured 31 First Division awards on vocal solo, vocal ensemble, or piano solo pieces at the Region 20 UIL solo and ensemble competition. A total of 57 students qualified for the UIL state solo and ensemble contest. Treble voice solo, 16 students qualified. Tenor bass voice solo, 10 students. Piano solo, 2 students. 6 ensembles, 3 treble, 2 tenor bass, and 1 madrigal. The DeSoto High School Color Guard competed at the NTCA Winter Guard event in Alvarado and took first place in their division. Congratulations to these amazing young men and women who are setting a new standard for guard and auxiliary work with our band program. Congratulations again to all of our winners.
Thank you, Trustee Moncrief. We're definitely excited about those swimmers and our fine arts students, those swimmers, the swim team, as you mentioned. Once you mentioned 12, 10, 9, those are their respective grades. And so we have a very young swim team, and we're excited about the future of that swimming program. Board, that brings us to item 1H, which is our special recognitions. Under H1, we also have the DHS Eagle football team, 6A Division II state champs. Trustee Moncrief.
The DeSoto High School Eagles football team won the 6A Division II state championship over Cibolo Steel 38-29 on December 17th at AT&T Stadium. Senior quarterback Sean Robinson, already attending Texas Christian University this spring, was named the championship game offensive MVP, and defensive back Isaiah Stewart was named defensive MVP. The team finished the 2016 season with a perfect record of 16-0. Robinson was named to the Army All-American team, the Texas Gatorade Football Player of the Year, Max Prep's 2016 All-American First Team, 2016 All-USA High School Sports, Texas Offensive Player of the Year, and First Team. He was also the 6A Ford Built Tough Texas High School Football Player of the Week, Week 9. He was also named a DFW First Down Club Offensive Player of the Year finalist and Parade Magazine 2017 All-America Football Team honorable mention. Offensive linemen Edward Ingram and Xavier Newman were both named Under Armour All-Americans, with Ingram also earning USA Today High School Sports Texas Second Team honors. LaVisca Chenault and Katie Nixon were named to the U.S. national team by USA Football in January. Coach Peterman earned Whataburger Coach of the Week in Week 2 and later named the 2016 Whataburger Coach of the Year. He was also named the DFW First Down Club Coach of the Year. The team was named WFAA Chevy Team of the Week in Week 16, and then won Team of the Year honors and was on Good Morning Texas on February 10th. They will be in Austin on February 15th to be recognized on the legislative floor. 6 players named to the all-area teams and 21 players named to the all-district teams, plus coaching staff and athletic training staff of the year. The team had a record number of academic all-state honorees. To be considered for academic all-state, a student athlete must be a senior in good standing with the team and of good moral character with an overall GPA of 92 or higher in all courses from grades 9 through 11 and courses completed from grade 12. Academic all-state DeSoto Eagles are Jordan Allen, Cherokee Barnett, Damon Briscoe, Caleb Irvin, Zachary Guidry, Samuel Hunter, Kimonte Yao, Jamarius Marshall, Kadarian Nixon, Tyrese Palmer, Emmett Perry, Sean Robinson, Joe Ruiz, Isaiah Stewart, Xavier Telsey, Richie Washington, Camry Wickware, Shane Williams. Or all-area team, Sean Robinson, Offensive Player of the Year. First team offense, Edward Ingram, Offensive Line. Xavier Newman, Offensive Line. Kadarian K.D. Nixon, Utility. First team defense, Colby Watts, Linebacker. Second team defense, Isaiah Stewart, Defensive Back. Congratulations to the team and coaches for a tremendous year, and if we could have Coach Peterman come forward, please.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys, men and women, for having us. We got a lot of kids, so we kind of had to group them together. Next group we're going to introduce is our offensive line, defensive line, and they have something they'd like to give the cabinet as well as and board as they come in. Nice wee riders. Huh? You should. Did y'all get them? those big bodies. Or was that out loud? That was who? Next group we'll have coming up is our wide receivers and linebackers. Who's that? Like you're in trouble. Stand over there. Oh. BJ, get where they can see you, son. Next group is running backs, defensive backs. On behalf of our team, I tell you what, we've had an exciting ride, and it's been nothing but a pleasure. And, you know, folks, I say this a lot. I don't know if y'all read the newspaper or the media, but the first thing I bring up is our school board, our administration, our counselors, who are incredible, and our teachers. And that it's big. These aren't, to me, these aren't words. I'm not going to say it if it's not true. And if you know me, you'll know that I'm telling the truth on that. But you guys have been amazing. It's been a wonderful year, and it shows. And it shows where the kids are academically. It shows. Get louder. It shows on the kids' academics. It shows on their test scores. It shows all the work that's put into it. Now, everybody has their favorites. Mr. Sherman, I have mine. Miss Crosby here on the front row, we have a special name for her. She's a graduation specialist. So we've had kids come in that are new to the district, that have to get ahead. She's always found a path for those. She's not the only one. I know she has help. But she, no doubt, is a superstar. And I know we have those in the classroom as well. But I can't say enough how much we appreciate you guys' support, how much it means, and how much fun we had. And it's not over yet. Again, thank you all.
All right. right, Board, that brings us to item I, which is our proclamations. We do have two proclamations on tonight, first of which I-1 is National African American History Month. Trustee Moncrief.
Whereas the theme for National African American History Month 2017 is the crisis in Black education. And whereas, while the needs of Black youth in public schools are especially critical in closing the achievement gap, the needs for equity and access to rigor is equally important in high-achieving schools as well. Whereas, schools serve as pipelines to the future for all students. Therefore, education should be considered one of the most important goals in America's past, present, and future. Whereas, DeSoto ISD is committed to providing every child, regardless of race, ethnicity, and social or economic demographic, with full access to educational opportunity. And therefore, we must push our children to reach for the full measure of their potential, just as the innovators who succeeded in previous generations pushed their children to achieve something greater. In the volume of Black history, much remains unwritten. Let us add our own chapter, full of progress and ambition, so that our children's children will know that we too did our part to erase an unjust past and build a brighter future. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Trustees designates February 17, 2017 as African American History Month in the DeSoto Independent School District. Be it further proclaimed that this proclamation serves to reinforce our commitment to recognizing the significant contributions of African Americans and to ensure that all children see themselves in the public school system's curriculum. Proclamation.
Good evening. In recognition of Black History Month, the DeSoto High School Thespians of Troop 2161 will be performing a series of student-written, directed, and acted short scenes based on Brown versus Board of Education and the Little Rock Nine. After that, the DeSoto High School a cappella choir will be performing Shadowland from The Lion King. And to end our evening of celebrating Black History Month, the award-winning Muat Steppers from DeSoto High School will be performing a traditional step routine. We hope you enjoy the performances.
Hello, man. How you doing today? Good, good. Here on Sunday school? All right, all right. That means first name is... I'm sorry, man. Unfortunately, I can't enroll your son into school. Why? Look at his skin color. Does he look white to you? I don't think so. Get off out of here. I ain't trying to be rude, man. I'm just telling you straight up. You don't allow no colors in these white schools. It's the state law of Arkansas. Yes, yes, of course it is. Now, you ever heard something called the Jim Crow law? Yes. It means that segregation is legal, which means certain Negro sons do not belong in this white facility. Now, man, I'm trying to be nice right now. I'm asking you to leave. Why can't you? What are you talking about education? It's bad. Don't come talk to me about it, man. They use the stinking fast. Ungrateful Negro. Get out of here.
people getting hit with bricks
Miss
and
Daisy,
expelled from school.
Miss Daisy, you cannot take
This
us
wasn't my
out.
plan.
Don't you want us to get our diplomas so we can validate all the crap that we've been through? If we get out, we're just letting the white people win. We're the voice of the African American people. If we acknowledge our painful but shared past, we can have reconciliation. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still gonna walk the same route every day. Are you with me, Carlotta? Hard work, persistence, strength, faith in God were all things I learned from my parents. I'm doing this because it's right. I'm in. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, Noah. When life throws bricks at you, you take those bricks and you make the foundation for the future generations. I'm in. Okay, what about you, Miss Daisy? Please. Come on, Miss Daisy. These are the beautiful young minds of the generations to come. If they can have faith, why can't I? I'm in. Miss Daisy. Well, you're expelled, but come on. We can't do it without you. It might be hard now, but it will get better. I mean, it might be storming now, but it can't rain forever. Yeah. Okay, good. Now listen, if God is with us, nobody can stand against us. Let's pray. Dear Lord,
And now we all see why they are going to London on a tour. Is Mr. Matt Edwards still in the building? Director of Fine Arts, thank you so much, sir.
Thank y'all for celebrating my baby, my children. That's what this is all about. We appreciate you very much for letting us perform for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. It is important for us to remember history. We know that history, when not learned, repeats itself. And so for some of those performances, it was, you had that nervous feeling come over you, especially since the kids wrote it. You didn't know what they were going to say next. But sitting here listening, it was good and refreshing to hear the younger generation come up with that on them by their own, right? And I say that because, for Mr. Gant, who's from Arkansas and grew up in that time, his perspective is a lot different than mine, having lived in DeSoto since, since birth, basically. And so you have historical context that I'll never have, but it's good to hear our new generation speaking and articulating that forward. And it gives me hope that we will learn from our past and move forward in a bold way. Especially, for board members, us looking at PEEMS data, we know that across the state, the incident in which they articulated with the brick and the soup, we know those instances happen and kids are suspended. Kids of color are suspended more often than not when it comes to their colleagues. And so we definitely realize that, and hopefully, board, that's a pick-me-up, a refresher, as we are one of 2 districts in Texas that has over 70% black students in our district, one of 2, the second being Lancaster, right across the highway. And so thank you to everyone that had a hand in that, putting that together. Board, that brings us to our second proclamation under I-2, which is National School Counseling Week. Trustee Moncrief.
Now for the other MVPs in the room. It's National School Counseling Week. Whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential. And whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development. And whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children. And whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves. And whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive development school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the education process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Therefore, we, Board of Trustees, DeSoto ISD, do hereby proclaim February 6th through 10th, 2017 as National School Counseling Week.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Graduation special. Thank you. They're doing awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do it one more time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, hey. How are you? Good, thank you. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Coming around, right? Thank you. Hey, hey, thank you. Yes, you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. You know what? All right, board, that brings us to item J, which is our citizens' participation. I will read into your hearing now those that will be participating, the guidelines in which to follow. We've designated a portion of our meeting to hear from members of our community. This is not the forum for complaints. We have procedures for hearing complaints, and those must be exhausted before matter is brought to the board. This is a posted public meeting of the board and not a meeting of the public. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, all meetings are open to the public and media. The board may hear some matters in executive session. However, any decision must be performed in an open meeting. In addition, we are not permitted to discuss items not on the agenda. Non-posted items may be considered for a future meeting. No presentation shall exceed 5 minutes, and delegations of 5 or more persons shall appoint one person to present their view. You're respectfully reminded to address the board and not the audience during your presentation. We do have one card tonight, and that comes to us from Mark Dexter. Mark, if you don't mind, just step to the podium, state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Yes, my name's Mark Dexter, and I appreciate the Board of Trustees giving me a few minutes to talk. I am the regional manager with GCA Services. We are the custodial contractor that's been here in DeSoto for the last 11 years. I did want to come to you and apologize for the lack of service that we've been providing DeSoto over the last year or two. I know we are not meeting your all's expectations, and I'm not here to give excuses, but I do want to talk about some of the reasons for our lack of service. During this economic time, hiring has been a difficult situation. Keeping up with the market, as you can see, there's a lot of help wanted signs around town. And so hiring has been an issue of ours. We are looking to increase wage rates in order to get better employees and more trained employees. Turnover has been a problem as employees come and go with the jobs that they see around in the community. I think there's been a change in the expectation in the district over the years that we've been here, and we did not adjust to that. A few years ago, we were asked to change to a skip cleaning program to help the district out financially. There was a point of time, excuse me, when there was a need for that. Excuse me. and so we changed to that skip cleaning, but we've gone back to a regular cleaning now. We see that there's a need for additional day staff in the schools. Excuse me. Sorry, I've just lost my voice. So this starts with our leadership, and it starts with our leadership, and it starts with our employees. We've got 2 account managers here in the district. Bridget Jones, she is a resident of DeSoto, has a child in Ruby Young, and Daniel Espinosa is our night manager. Thank you. We vow to give them support and training and the tools it takes to increase what our program is. Our commitment to our staff. Thank you. Our commitment to the staff. Most of our staff live here in DeSoto. A lot of them have been residents. They live here in DeSoto, and they have worked here in DeSoto ISD for many years. And so we want to make a commitment to them to make sure they're having all the full training and that they need and the tools that they need to work with. We've got some programs like Employee of the Month, Employee of the Year that we're currently doing. We'd like to add a School of the Month and a safety recognition to where if you go for a period of time with no incidents, to be able to celebrate with the employees that way. Over the years, there's been some flexibility. We felt like on our side with the whole skip cleaning program, we've added staff to schools over the years where DeSoto ISD employees retired, and then we picked up in those positions. We've added schools throughout the years. There's an ever-changing need in the schools for the number of activities that go on in the schools, and that increases each year. We see more and more of those activities. Changing from a company that's been here the time we have to another company, there's a lot of difficulties in that. One thing with GCA and the team we have, we know your schools. We know how to handle the activities and the events that go on in the schools. We know what the proper staffing should be in the schools, and I think with this new proposal, we'll be able to propose what that staffing is. the staffing during the day staff. That's where the critical need is to have enough day staff to maintain your schools. We've learned how to clean, activities like the football games where you had your state champion football team in here, and we clean those areas after games. In our new program, then of course we're going to add day porters. We're going to add additional day porters. We'd like to have 2 day porters at each school, in each of the elementary schools. So that's where we see that a lot of our issues is our day porters, single day porters in the cafeteria, and they're not able to maintain areas like restrooms. We'd like to add additional programs like I was talking about with some of these safe schools and school of the months. We're looking at a program with our account manager. It's kind of like a SWAT team. So when you have a report card and you get a report card that's below B, is my time up?
Thank you so much,
sorry,
Mr. Johnson. Or
All right,
Mr. Dexter.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Administration, they've had our contract for 11 years. You might provide us with some information as far as how they've handled our official complaints. I know we've been complaining for 4 years, and this is the first time we've heard from them. So perhaps if there's been some other communication to administration that the board is not aware of, you'll make that known to us as well. Thank you. Board, that brings us to our public hearing portion of the board meeting. Item K calls for us to conduct a public hearing on school start time. For our public hearing, we'll allot 3 minutes to each individual that wants to speak to that subject matter. First is the school start time. And so I will open up the public hearing in just a moment. If you wish to speak on this topic, if you don't mind just stepping to the podium, state your name for the record so that we can archive that and you can begin. The time is now 7:30. Name and address, I'm sorry, name and address for the record, thank you. The time is now 7:30 and we'll call this public hearing open.
Tamika Jackson, 1817 Bramble Creek in DeSoto. Just coming before the board regarding the proposed time of having the high school start at a later time. I, as a parent that depend on my older child to arrive home to let the younger ones in, that would be a great inconvenience on our household, speaking from our household. I feel comfortable having her there. In addition, she is active in school, and it raises a concern to me if they are being dismissed at, I believe it was 4 o'clock is the proposed time, how that impacts after-school activities, tutoring, and events that we have outside of the school. Does that push everything back? If they're riding buses, when do they get home? How it impacts a lot with our family. So I am personally hoping that that would be reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tammy Armstrong. I have a student here. We live on Spinner Street in DeSoto. My concern would be the time start of later. I think we have enough issue with absentees and tardiness. I think parents go to work early. Parents are not at home to make sure that these kiddos are up and out the house. I think we need to leave that as it is and continue on that track. I think that our attendance will be greatly affected by that. There's no kid, if no parent is at home to make sure that those kids up and out want to get up at that later time. They've rolled over twice. Now that third time, even with us as adults, we have a hard time getting back up.
Good afternoon. Alonda Barber, 500 Canary Lane, DeSoto, Texas. I can say ditto to the two that went before me, but once again, I do have a question for the board. With the time changes for the high school, and I know that the teachers are under contract, will there be a discussion of redoing their contracts to extend their contracts so there is supervision at the schools after the school hours to accommodate for those kids who have to be picked up by parents? And also, how will that impact tutoring when most of tutoring is done after school hours? On the before side, what programs will be implemented for parents who have to drop off their kids earlier that will not be a financial burden to the parents of the DeSoto community?
Good evening. Crystal Sams, 549 Bayberry Lane. I'm speaking in reference to the elementary school start time. Right now, the kids are allowed to be there no later than 8:10. Schools open at 7:15. And my concern is that if we push the start time to 7:30, then what time are we going to allow children to come in? Are they going to now be able to come in at 6:45? And who's going to be there to receive them at this time?
Hello, my name is Elena Brooks. I'm at 613 Spicewood, and I have children at all three elementary, middle school, and high school. With the proposal being that it is, my high school kids won't be there until later, but yet my elementary kids have to go earlier, but they have to be covered by the ACE program. So will the ACE program extend so the parents are getting off at 5 o'clock coming from all the way downtown? Which is a lot of us doing that, trying to race to the school to pick them up from the ACE program, or will we have a financial burden after that because it will only allow so much time that's going to that program. Also, with the kids being out, then you have more mischief sometimes with the little kids trying to get home. I know we did had a couple of kids, they walk home with their friends because their parents not home at that time. So they're going earlier, that means they'll be at home more often without their parent being there than what they are currently. And what will that look like for the younger kids to have that much freedom with no parents being at home?
Hello, Janita Jordan, 1609 Laurel Springs Court. I just have a question. Is there a website or something I can go to get more data? Because in the public hearing letter, it said there were reports that said these times are better. I'd just like to better understand what the report said so I can decide if it is better.
Administration, make sure we get with her. It's on, I'm assuming, DeSotoISD.org, and it's being placed on Facebook right now as well. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Marva Costin, and I'm at 1213 Boysenberry Drive. The same for me. I'd like some information. I'd like the information also to review. I have two children. They're 9th and 10th grade. I am from East Texas, and so we believe that children should remain in the same school system. I struggled and suffered to remain in DeSoto, and have done so, and have done well now. My children have been here since 2nd grade. They looked forward to coming to high school. They knew the time that they would be getting out of school. They have now made it to 9th and 10th grade, and they asked me to come here to speak to you to tell you that they have adjusted to their times. They get up at 6 o'clock. They're at the school at 7. They want 30 minutes to relax before that school time so they can go to class. Both of them did not do well in biology and chemistry. They are now in night school on Thursday nights. How does that impact night school? I have them up from 6 o'clock on Thursdays. They are at the school till 7:15, 7:30, whatever time I pick them up. They are dedicated. They are willing. And I feel like to push that time back. This is not necessarily a question, but a thought. Have we thought about crime? You've got children, teenagers. While we're all gone, we all travel outside of DeSoto to go to work. Has anybody thought about who's going to be lurking the streets? My children will be where they're supposed to be. But my concern is where all these other children are going to be at my house, near my house. We've had a couple of thefts and still live in one of the nicer neighborhoods. So those are our concerns.
Corey Poitier, 600 Eagle Drive. I'm coming at this from a 2-point of view as an educator. Pushing back my start time will extend my day, which is already a long work day. We have tutoring after school, we have meetings, and I'm looking at, with our PLC meetings, going to about 7 o'clock at night. Then I have responsibilities as a husband, and those family concerns would be a concern to me. Starting early, which we need to be teaching our seniors, our juniors, that responsibility of getting to school on work on time, which is their job, primary job, is to be there at that start time. By giving them a cushion only tells us that the world relax for them, which is not true. Because I'm sure if I rolled in at 8:30, Ms. McGowan would be waiting for me at 14:12, which is my classroom. So I believe it's our responsibility as an educator, as a school system, to make sure that we set in parameters that will really be helpful, not only for the community, because we've had break-ins from some of our students who have decided to take that dark route, that would make the society safe around DeSoto darker. We have to make sure that we maintain these things because structure builds a lot. And at DeSoto High School, we are in a building mode, thanks to our new principal, of building that structure and discipline that those students need. So if we looked at some other ISD and thought this was a great idea, but that's a cultural thing that's going to take time and implementation, maybe over a 4-year period. But what I want us to do is say, we here at DeSoto have things to do and things to fix, but something like this, we need to keep that structure in place so that we can fix those other things that are wrong, and so that we can also have a successful academic side to go with our athletic side. So I implore you to really think about it, because my heart is with DeSoto. But I want you to understand that I look and I fight for my students every day to make sure they get that quality education. So me getting up early is not a big deal. It's not about me. It's really teaching them that structure and discipline, that they can see someone comes to work for them so that they can go to work in society for us. Thank you.
Good evening, Lynette Tucker, 801 South Polk. I'm going to speak in two parts, as Mr. Portier did. First, as a parent of a freshman at the high school. You guys aren't going to like me for this, but I agree with this. The move, I believe that we need to start teaching our children that the world does not revolve around them, and when the world moves, they move. And I think a lot of our children have forgotten that. From a teacher's point of view, we're talking about us. Me. I'm a realist. What's doing best for the kids is making sure that they're functioning. And when I get those kids in the morning and they're still sleepy, it takes about another hour and a half before they're actually with me. So while we're worried about us, we can adjust. We can make it work. We've overcome. So let's be realists here. These kids are not functioning. A lot of them are getting there late. It's taken up a lot of unnecessary time. And the reality is we need to do what's best for them. Thank you.
My name is Denethia Montgomery, 801 Beckley Maid. I just have one question, and that is, have you guys taken into consideration how this change is going to affect the early college program or the collegiate magnet program with those students going back and forth to Cedar Valley? Their classes start at 8 o'clock. If our classes are starting at 8:30, have you guys considered a plan for that, for them having to be at Cedar Valley at 8?
Hi, I'm Angela Gosa, 1005 Regal Bluff Lane. One of the questions or concerns that I have is that if the students are having to be at school at 8:30 a.m., like some of the others have spoke about, how are they going to get there if the parents are already gone? And then second of all, if the kids are getting there late or whatever the concern may be, have we thought about maybe just looking at maybe moving times, maybe 30 minutes, 15 minutes to see if we can allow for some of those sleepy kids and things of that nature? So maybe it just doesn't have to be these set times that we are. If we need to do some restructure to it, let's look at maybe some flexibility there.
Good evening. Antoine Daniels, 513 Olympia Street. Speaking from behalf of a parent that has 4 children in the district, all three levels. Well, it's 4 levels actually with the pre-K. I apologize. I support the pre-K. I support pre-K. I won't have one in there, but I support it. So, PTA-wise, you have to address this by these kids being a 7-year-old being on the bus stop at 6:48 in the morning. It's going to happen. It's not healthy. Ain't the right way to do things, okay? It's not about me, it's about we. And we means adults, teachers, administrators, PTA, everyone. It's not me, it's we. Stop thinking about just the kids and just this. It's all of us. We are a community. It takes all of us to get these kids to school, to get these kids taught up, to get the ACE program really as it's supposed to be. You're putting more pressure on the ACE program also. By these small kids, the majority of the ACE kids are in K through 5. You're putting a bunch of pressure on them now, having them for more 30 minutes that they were supposed to be doing things in the classroom and preparing for them. Now they can't do that. And at morning time also being pushed back also. Our schools are already open, I believe, by 7:15 or 7:30 already, I believe for a fact. Okay, at Ruby Young, they're rolling. They got it going good over there. And I'm sure every other school does too. But these kids should not be up that morning, that early. And it puts pressure. It creates accountability and responsibility for the big kids. They get up in the morning and get their little sister ready and fed up and stuff like that. And then they go off to school. They can walk their sister to school and to the bus stop and things like that. They are then available at 4 o'clock in the evening to make sure that the little brothers and sisters are being taken care of, things like that, so that mom and daddy can try their best to get home on timely fashion. Okay, ACE is an issue. Data does say that as you start the day later, the student will come to school more. Well, that's somewhere that, I'm going to tell you the truth, coming from Kimball High School. When we started late in the day, and then we're chilling at a friend's house from about 7:30 to about 8 chilling. We're chilling at the house. I came out of high school in 99. Things ain't changed that much. Okay? They're going to be chilling at the house.
Thank you so much. It's 3 minutes.
Oh, I apologize.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you.
On my phone.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I'm Carolyn Foster, 1120 Rio Bravo. I have one of your junior IB students, and her concerns were mostly with being starting later in the day. She was thinking that knowing that her friends and how the kids get rowdy and act later in the day, she was concerned more about being in the school so late that the kids start losing focus and start to acting a little more rowdy at the end of the day, and then having to go to tutoring after school for whenever they do have things that they are having trouble with. If they're starting at 4 o'clock and ending at 6 o'clock as opposed to 3 to 5, then we were kind of concerned about how we were going to get them around and everything, and how that was going to affect, the teaching aspect of it, and as far as the kids being focused when they're in tutoring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I actually wasn't planning to say anything. I did all my fussing at home. But I'm Crystal Ingram, 1200 Yukon Drive in Glen Heights. As I was talking to one of the other mothers, it was more of a concern for other parents more so than myself. My son only has 1 more year left. But I'm concerned for the community, not just my own. And what I thought about for the like my son who's in football, who was one of the ones who was up here, getting, they have to practice. And to get out of practice later, they're already getting out at, 6:30. And you're bumping that even later. He's in the IB program. He's in the STEM or whatever, the robotics. He needs time to study. Because to me, the education is more important than the athletic part of it. So I don't need to fuss no more than I already do for him to stay awake and study. So we have to think about pushing that out. What happened? I don't want him getting, they have to travel for the contest. I don't want him getting out of class, out of one of his core classes, trying to make, get on the bus to go to the other contests, because right now when they get out, they're in like 6th period or whatever, and it's the athletic. They're already in that classroom. But if they're getting out at, they start in school later, you're going to have to take them out, and it's probably going to be a core class. These kids need to be in instructional time. They need to be in class more than they do. Y'all see where I'm coming from. Okay, my last my last thing, I know I'm on my soapbox, but listen, my last thing, once again, even though I don't have no more babies, I'm thinking about the little ones. When the little ones, if they're going to school earlier than their brothers and sisters, normally they have to, take care of them or, pick them up as, after school. If they're still in school at 4 o'clock and the little ones are getting out early and some of them are walking home, y'all know we got pedophiles in DeSoto. I mean, we just got to call it like it is. We do. You can go on that site and you can see that it is what it is. And I am concerned with these little ones walking home by themselves. To me, that's like a, ooh-wee with people that preys on kids. Because when the kids are out the way it is set up now, you got the high school out, you got the middle school, you got people traveling all over, and, it's kind of hard to kind of get to one of them kids because everyone is around. But
Yes,
if
ma'am.
everybody's in school, I
Yes,
don't want
ma'am.
nobody kid taken.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Augustus Walton, 501 Cambridge Drive. I have two concerns. One, if you move the elementary up or back, right now we volunteer, but we hadn't been as much as this year. And we sometimes leave the campus about 8:10, 8:15, and there's still a lot of parents dropping kids off at that time. So if you all are concerned with the high school, then you're going to, by pushing the elementary back, you're going to have a problem with parents getting the elementary kids there on time. And the second thing is, right now, the way it works now, it works great for us because all our kids, we got one in high school and two in elementary. And they all get up at the same time, they eat breakfast, get ready, and we leave the house, drop our high school student off first, then we go to the elementary school and have breakfast with the kids every morning. So by you all moving the time, it's going to affect a lot of things. And plus, when time change and it's dark at 6, so if you change the time for elementary, then that means the kids are going to have to start getting up at 5 or 5:30. But right now, our kids get up at 6. So that's just a concern of mine, ours. So.
Shannon Hill, 1000 East Pleasant Run Road, Cedar Hill. I'm a teacher, and so I know that everyone's talking about the time and kids getting to school, but I'm also thinking about their productivity. And sometimes kids in elementary, kids start to get really tired. And so when you're pushing that time up earlier for 7:30, and the kids have to be there at 7 o'clock, or the teachers have to be there at 6:45, trying to make sure that they're ready and they're productive and they're not getting sleepy and therefore acting out because they're tired and they're sleepy and they didn't get all of their rest, that is what concerns me. And I want our students to also be very productive because that productivity that gives them their best in elementary also carries through to middle school, which also makes the high school even better. So that was my concern.
Coquise Lewis, 1416 Carriage Creek. My concern is, I guess I need more information in regards to the time changes because I always receive emails and phone calls in regards to football games, basketball games, but I did not receive anything that came home from my son's school. I had to find out on the news about this meeting. So I would like more information.
Brandon Sharp, 709 Candle Meadow. My major concern is just for the elementary campus. I'm also a educator outside of the district, so I teach at a school that starts at 8:30. So there is some positive and negative aspects to that. Just me as an educator, in education experiencing it.
you're still going to have the sleepyheads that's still going to walk in. So the problem is not them being awake in the morning. The problem is them really going to bed at night. So so a lot of the discussions I have with my parents is teaching them a sleep schedule. So if they're coming in sleepy at 8:30, they're still, coming in sleeping at 7:30, they're still going to come in sleepy at 8:30. But my major concern is my elementary, is that the fact of pushing them up. And I don't know how you all juggle time to get the 8:30 and the 7:30 going. But I know in the district I work in, they do a 8 o'clock and then a 8:30. So I don't know if that'll kind of alleviate some stuff with the elementary being pushed back so far. Thank you.
TK Woodard Spriggs, 823 Crooked Creek Lane. As an educator myself with a different district, I'm wondering, has it been considered, because I have the option to transfer my child to that district if I want to. I'm wondering, has it been considered if other educators have that option as well, if we would lose funding with that child being transferred out of the district? I sit on the superintendent committee with the district that I teach at, and I know, I'm just wondering about our head count on our funding with our students. And I'm also wondering, with us trying to become a district, I have a child in the district, and with DeSoto trying to become a school of innovation, would the timing play a role in that as well? Thank you.
Good evening. Tanji Fleming, 1201 Copper Drive. Thank you for taking the opportunity to listen to some of our concerns tonight. One of my concerns is actually for some of our students who work after school. That means they will possibly be working longer hours. For some of the students that may have extracurricular activities after school, how does that impact them? I'm also concerned that some of the bus drivers may also be pulling double duty. I don't know, but I'm asking the board to take some of the logistical aspects of this into more consideration. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Natasha Singleton, 221 Laurel Springs. My concern is that whether they are sleepy or well rested, they will still need tutoring, because there will be subjects in which, are difficult. And I know that teachers, are like myself, they work, we get home late in the day. I'm not a teacher, but I know that you guys have the same life that I do. And one of the problems that we have right now with the tutoring is that they are not able to stay after school because they have to go pick up their children and do different things. So my concern is less about whether or not my daughter will continue to participate in the athletics and how that'll work, because that tends to always work itself out. What I'm more concerned with is whether or not she's going to be able to get the support that she needs if you push the time back, because are you going to be able to make sure that teachers are there to support her needs? Are you going to make sure that they, don't have other responsibilities that contribute to that? So as we think through this process, I think it's very important that we whole brain this thing. I do understand where you're coming from, but I also believe that we have to make sure that we look at this thing from a realistic point of view and make sure that as we put those types of things in place, that we also make sure that we don't shortcut these kids educationally and making sure that they're able to succeed and pass their classes. So if the teachers are also willing to stay late and work with them, then perhaps that will work. But if not, I think we should probably keep the times the same.
All right, so once again, this is the public hearing regarding the start time for the district. Is there anyone that wishes to speak that has not spoken on this topic as of yet? All right, seeing and hearing no movement, all right, the time is now 7:57, and we will call that public hearing closed. Definitely want to thank all those participants, administration. We definitely got a lot of things to consider. How the changes will affect the early college and collegiate magnet programs. How does this affect those students in night school? How does this affect teachers with a longer or potentially a longer work day? Attendance rates with the changed time. We had 2 individuals speak about tutoring and what those schedules would look like, drop-off times, and then we had kids getting there. This was as it relates to elementary campuses at 6:45. ACE program, would it be extended? We had several individuals request more information and data. That information should have been posted to Facebook by now. Is that correct? All right, so the information is up on Facebook. You can also go to desotoisd.org to get that information, to see what the board has been reviewing from a data standpoint. Flexibility with start time, someone mentioned. We know that we have a bus scheduling thing that we try and work around, so let us know what that looks like logistically. Also, if there was a way to add bus routes, what that price would look like. Just give us all options to consider moving forward. Scheduling for IB and athletics. Elementary school start time, how many of those students would be tardy with an earlier start time? And once again, pushing the elementary time up, those students being on the bus stop earlier in the winter months, and it still be dark outside. So if you don't mind, administration, if you guys can make sure that we have, now that we've had feedback from the community, we can look forward, as one of our citizens mentioned, logistically, what that would look like, what are all the options, so that when we come back and have this discussion again, we have a more intelligent conversation, moving from the points of our citizens and also looking like what this would look like in practice as opposed to theory. Thank you. Board, that brings us to our next public hearing, which is item L, which is conduct public hearing on District of Innovation. If you wish to speak on this topic, once again, you are allotted 3 minutes. If you don't mind, just step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you may begin. The time is now 7:59, and I'll call this public hearing open.
Good evening. Tony Sloan, 712 Rolling Hills Lane, Elliston Ranch Community. I just have a question about the District of Innovation. I've been reading, just kind of have a question. What does that look like? What would that look like next school year with the classes? Would it still be 8A, B-Day? Would the classes be longer? I know it's 90 minutes. Would they have 4 classes a day? Would it be 5 classes a day? Would they have 8 classes a day? What does it look like? It's saying that you can have exemptions about teacher certification. Are you going to be requiring teachers not to have certification? Just exactly what are you looking to do? What direction are you looking to move the district in with this District of Innovation? Thank you.
Tiffany Clark, 717 Arbor Creek Drive. With the option to start school earlier, has the district analyzed the impact this can have on the budget, given that we know more students typically show up after Labor Day? Would the early start date have a negative impact on the average daily attendance and thus decrease the amount of funding that we receive? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, this is the public hearing on District of Innovation. Anyone who wishes to speak on this topic, if you don't mind, step to the podium and you may begin your presentation, which is 3 minutes.
Good afternoon again. My name is Alonda Barber, 500 Canary Lane. Being that I am somewhat familiar with School of Innovation, I do have several questions. I know that you all are in the process of establishing your subcommittee. My first question to you would be, is your subcommittee, which is collaboration that is appointed by the board as well as the superintendent, will your subcommittee look like the district that we live in? Meaning, will it be well diverse? Will you have African American on that committee? Will you have Asian? Will you have African descent? Will you have Hispanic? Will you have China? I think that that will only be fair, that every voice will be heard when you're actually compiling your School of Innovation. So you can hear of all cultural demographics, cultural concerns, and their cultural environment when you're talking about establishing your School of Innovation. Also, when you talk about doing your School of Innovation, you're talking about one of the things that there are several factors to a School of Innovation. So when you're talking about it, you have not specifically identified what your core committee has already thought of. So therefore, a lot of us here tonight are actually in the blind for two reasons. One, we don't understand School of Innovation. And two, we do not know what will be the purpose for the district becoming a School of Innovation. I understand it because I've been part of one. But how many people here tonight do? Because there are some good things about it, but there are some things out there in public eye view that actually put a negative connotation on it. And we want to dispel that if that's something that we're wanting to do. So I think that as all fairness, not knowing if you can table this, but I would say if there could be information put out to the community so we can be more well-versed and well-educated about it, so we can have an intelligent conversation with the board about School of Innovation so we can voice our concerns. Because at this moment, we're at a disadvantage because we're not educated about it.
All right, once again, this is item L, which is the public hearing with regards to District of Innovation. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? Seeing and hearing no one, the time is now 8:04, and we will call this matter closed. Administration, you've heard from a couple of individuals as it relates to what does this look like. As far as teacher certification, that was brought up specifically by name. Scheduling as it relates to block scheduling, traditional scheduling, advanced block scheduling, that was mentioned. There was also a plea for the subcommittees that have been appointed by the board as well as superintendent, that those represent the diversity, and let's get with her later because the diversity of our city and the diversity of the school district are two different things. We know those numbers are different, so let's make sure that, I'm assuming it's district related, so let's make sure that that matches, and also let's make sure that we articulate the purpose of why we're going down this road. And it will also be good to educate in every communication that we send out. Let's educate the process of District of Innovation and what that looks like. Once the subcommittee makes a recommendation, where does it go from there, right? Talk about that process of how it comes to the board and things of that nature. Yeah, very well. And I think, and so, yeah, for semantic purposes, and I appreciate that, Dr. Harris, it's not a subcommittee in the sense that there's a larger committee. It is a committee that works in hand with the board, and the board has the final say. The board votes on the recommendation of the committee. So thank you for articulating that, and we have hopefully cleared that distinction. All right. All right, board, that brings us to our consent items at 8:06. Which is consent item A is contract language. 1A is professional employment contract language for administrative contracts. A2 is professional employment contract language for non-administrative contracts. Item 2B is 2017-2018 course catalog revisions. And 2C, minutes from the previous meetings. I entertain a motion from the board if there. I'll entertain a motion from the board if there be any at this time.
Mr. President,
Trustee Goat.
I would like to separate out consent items A and B for discussion.
Okay, where does that leave us with C? You want two? I'm sorry. Do you want two separate conversations, or is there one that you don't have a question on? You want to take action on right now? Did that make sense? Do you want to talk about both items?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So board.
I don't want to talk about minutes.
Gotcha. Well, yeah. Gotcha.
I'm not
All right, so board, seeing no objections to that, let's go ahead and take a motion on consent item 2C, which is minutes from the previous meeting, previous meetings. I'll entertain a motion if there be any from the board at this time.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Trustee Gant. We have a second by Trustee Moncrief. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 6-0. All right, Board, that brings us to our first item, which was separated. Item 2A, contract language. Trustee Gold.
A couple of questions on this. Let me start with my first one. I needed to know when we have a one-year probationary contract. I'm looking at the contracts for administrators. One-year term contract, non-certified administrator. And then we have a one-year probationary contract for a certified administrator. And then we have I think I've got my papers, one-year term contract for a certified administrator. I got that one. Okay, so just somebody clarify for me, a one-year probationary contract for a certified administrator. Why, if you are a certified administrator, are you on a probationary contract? I think I do know maybe what the answer would be, but I want you to clarify that.
I'll answer that for you, Ms. Goat.
Thank you.
So on a probationary contract, that's at the superintendent's discretion. When that contract is issued to an administrator, it can be a probationary contract. Let's say it's a new administrator coming to the district, and the superintendent wants to put that administrator on a probationary contract. That's when that would be used.
Okay, a probationary contract means that that person can be dismissed during the school year without cause?
Not during the school year, at the end of that contract. So basically, probationary and term. So if it's not a term contract, then it's a probationary, which allows the discretion to end that contract at the end of that contract year.
Okay, I guess I thought that a one-year term contracted administrator could also be removed at the end of that year.
That is correct. But once you move to term, you have different rights than you do as a probationary.
Okay, so there would be more documentation to get rid of a term?
Yes, ma'am.
There would just need to be more documentation to get rid of the term contract, where the probationary person would be easier to dismiss just because we don't like you.
Well, not just because we don't like them. I mean, you will still need some documentation and proof.
Okay.
But it is a little easier to get rid of a probationary contract than it is a term contract.
Okay.
You are correct in that.
All right. That's what I thought. Okay, so probationary would be for, just to clarify what you said, probationary would usually be used for administrators who are new to the district.
Correct.
Usually.
Correct.
Any other reason why they might be given a probationary contract?
Well, if it's a first-year administrator, then that person could be placed on a probationary contract. So they could have been within the district, but they're moving. They could have been in the district as a teacher, but they're moving to an administrator's role. Therefore, superintendent would have the option of giving that person a probationary contract.
Okay. And the non-certified administrator, I'm changing things, non-certified administrator, I'm just asking if I'm right on that, would be someone who manages people, but they never went and got their administrative certification.
Correct. That position does not require them to have an administrative certificate.
Okay, the position doesn't require them. And that would be somebody like maybe Mr. Laborde?
Correct.
Okay, I think I'm on that page. All right. Okay, and then one other. Okay, we are on dual assignment one-year term contract. Got that one? Let me see if I got this right. I'm just making sure that I have all this right, okay? Dual assignment one-year probationary contract, dual assignment one-year term contract. The one that says probationary contract specifically says teacher coach. So those are only for teacher coach. Probationary one-year contracts are only for teacher coaches?
The dual contract makes it the teacher coach part of it. That's the dual, teacher and coach.
Okay, then who is on the dual assignment one-year term contract?
That would be a coach also.
Okay, so both of those are just for teacher coaches.
Yes, ma'am.
Because one of them says teacher coach and one of them doesn't. I was just asking, who else would it be? It's just teacher coach. Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Gold. Seeing here no further questions as it relates to this item, Board, I'll entertain a motion from the board if there be any as it relates to consent item 2A, which is contract language for professional employment, contract language of administrative contracts, and for contract language of non-administrative contracts. Is there a motion?
Second.
A motion to approve by Trustee Gant, second by Trustee Hooper. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And motion carries 7-0. That brings us to item 2B, which is the 2017-2018 course catalogs revisions. I know we workshopped this on Saturday. Trustee Gold.
I just needed this pulled. I only received this about 20 minutes, I guess, before the board meeting. I just wanted to make that statement. I've only seen it for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we know your schedule didn't allow you to be here. So do you have a question for administration as it relates to it?
No, because I haven't had time to review it. I
Okay.
just received it. And I did not get it emailed to me, so I just now received it. Just
Gotcha.
want to make that point.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess the question, did you receive this on Saturday?
No, ma'am, we discussed it on Saturday, and that's how you got the changes that are in your email.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions, comments as it relates to this item? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question as it relates to consent item 2B, which is 2017-2018 course catalog revisions. Is there a motion at this time?
I move that we take them separately, high school catalog revision and the middle school catalog revision, because they're two separate catalogs that we're voting on here. And there are specific revisions for the middle school catalog as well as for the high school catalog. So I move if we could break those two course catalogs voting up.
Okay, Board, it's listed as one item, 2017-2018 course catalog revisions. You've heard the request of Trustee Moncrief. Is there an objection, Trustee Gant?
No, I'm just going to state that does not have to necessarily be a motion. It's just merely a request. So
sure.
if as the presiding over the meeting, if you would like to request, grant that, that'll be okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Gant. Are there any objections to it? Seeing and hearing none, we'll take the first, which will be our high school 2017-2018 course catalog revisions. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the high school course catalog and course selections.
We have a motion by Trustee Hooper. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Gant. Call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right. That motion carries 5-2. That brings us to our middle school course catalog revisions. I'll entertain a motion if there be any from the board at this time.
Mr. President, I move that the middle school catalog, with specificity, the items that we discussed in the board meeting on January 27th, I believe, regarding the pre-AP classes for sixth grade being clearly identified in the catalog, as well as, for purposes of specificity, the electives that we discussed in the workshop this past Saturday, being the course involving robotics, as well as rolling the video instruction course into the tech app course, that those items be specifically put into the catalog, that the catalog be revised to accurately reflect those offerings, as well as the catalog be revised to and updated to reflect the school year for which it will be appropriate, which would be the 2017-2018 school year. And also any other items that we outlined previously again on January 27th, that all of those things be included in the catalog.
Second for the so eloquently stated motion by the secretary.
Ms. Rand, we will be rewinding this tape tomorrow. All right, board, you've heard the motion with the specificities outlined by Trustee Moncrief. We have a motion to approve as presented with those outlined items, seconded by Trustee Hooper. Call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. And motion passes 6-1. Note to administration, on Saturday, we discussed this, and there's no reason why Trustee Moncrief should have to give you specificities as it relates to approving this if the conversation we had on Saturday was clear to make sure that you got with her in particular, to make sure that all of her requests were placed in there. I can't express how disappointed I am that that was not done and taken care of in a timely fashion. Board, that brings us to item 3A, which is an update of 107 first reading. Dr. Harris.
This is a standard report this time of the year, Mr. President, concerning update 107 first reading. As you know, we give you the first reading, and then we'll have the second reading at our next board meeting for board approval.
Board, we've had an opportunity to read over this update 107. This is the first reading, an opportunity for us to ask questions. No action is required at this time, but we can open the floor to any comments, questions, or discussions as it relates to this item. Seeing and hearing none, that brings us to item 3B, which is our American Express quarterly report. Dr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President, this is a report that the board has asked for on a quarterly basis, and once again, we're providing it as requested.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Board, once again, this is a standard report item. We've had a few days to look over this and review the numbers. We'll entertain any questions, comments, or discussion as it relates to this item on the agenda. Seeing and hearing none. That brings us to item 3C, which is employments, resignations, retirements, and of administrative personnel. Dr. Harris.
Board President, this is once again a standard report that we provide to the board at all board meetings, and I'll be more than glad to address any questions or concerns the board might have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Board, this is a standard report item, but once again, if there are any questions, comments, or discussion as it relates to it, we'll entertain those at this time. Trustee Daniel.
I have two on the resignations, retirements, whatever. The first one has to do with the male leadership teacher leaving. If my calculations are right, we have had a total turnover of male leadership teachers this year. What are we doing in the Male Leadership Academy to get rid of those teachers?
We do not get rid of teachers, Ms. Daniel. If people find other position or whatever, I mean, it's strictly up to the employee. We don't get rid of teachers.
Well, male leadership, those should be the best of the best, and I would think those would be the best teaching positions, so why would anybody want to leave? And I know you can't answer that, but that's a rhetorical question.
Right.
Okay, the second thing I have to say is, we're not listing all the teachers who are leaving. Lisa Hayes is not on here, and she left sometime between the last report I saw and this report. Where is she?
Typically, it's when their resignation goes into effect. So they would have to give you that information.
I'll get that information to you, Ms. Daniel.
We're going to go into an extremely long, I assume, executive session. Please have that information by the time we get out. Have it at her desk so she can review it. Trustee Hooper.
I just want to acknowledge again the contributions to this district and our students of Dr. Tracy Tolbert. And I want to thank the administration and all of the staff for the great level of support that they showed to a person who has instilled so much into the children. It was quite impressive to see the great legacy and to hear about some of the great things that Dr. Tolbert has done. I have the pleasure of working with her husband, and so it's extremely special, the relationship that we had and the relationship that I had with her family. But I definitely want to thank the administration as well as the rest of the DeSoto ISD family for really showing our love and appreciation for the great impact that she's had on these children in this district. So thank you. Job well done to this board and to the district. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hooper. Seeing and hearing no further comments regarding item 3C, that moves us forward to item 4, which is our action items. We have no need for taking action on any items tonight. That brings us to item 5, which is executive session. 5A calls for us to move into executive session under 551.074 personnel to discuss the superintendent's annual evaluation. The time is now 8:24, and we will move into executive session. All right, so the time is now, 12:10 a.m. It is Valentine's Day. And we are reconvening an open session. We've been in executive session under 551.074 personnel to discuss the superintendent's evaluation. We have no action to take at this time. We'll take this up at a later date. That brings us to item 6, which is board comments. I'll start to my right, Trustee Gant, and we'll work our way around the shoe.
I have several comments, but in the interest of time, I will save them for the board meeting.
Thank you, Trustee Gant. Trustee Hall? Same thing. Trustee Hooper?
I'll follow the train.
All right. No comments from Trustee Hooper. Trustee Gold?
I'm good with the train.
All right. Thank you, Trustee
I'm on
Gold.
board.
All right, all aboard. All right, Trustee Moncrief?
I'm breaking it. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Okay. Dr. Harris?
No comments.
No comment. All right. Well, the time is now 12:11. And board, we have no further action to take on the agenda, and we'll call this meeting adjourned at 12:11, February 14th.